Welcome to another Build Day TV episode. My name's Alistair Cook, and today we're continuing our adventure with the Oracle Cloud infrastructure. And of course, driving all of the changes is my friend Tom Green. How are you doing, Tom?
I'm doing fantastic. How many times do you get to play with the 10 gig direct connect into the cloud?
That's one of the things that I saw as being a huge opportunity for us to show things that most people never get their hands on, and to go have some playing. And in this project, we have a 10 gig connection into the Chicago data center. And in this video, we're going to project that 10 gig connection all the way into our Oracle Cloud infrastructure. So Tom, what do we need to do to get this 10 gig connectivity into the Oracle infrastructure?
There's a couple of different pieces to it. You have to configure both ends of the connection. So pre-work, before any of this got started, we've ordered a circuit from MegaPort. MegaPort is the provider that's going to give us the link directly into Oracle. So they're an Oracle partner. They already have the paths. So we just had to hook up, cross-connect into their network. So we need to create a fast connect on the Oracle side, which is their direct connection product. And then we have to use that circuit to create a MegaPort connection to get it all turned up. And then at the end, we need to have BGP deployment all together.
So we already had the week's delay for the physical fiber connectivity between our Chicago data center and MegaPort in Chicago. They happen to be in the same data center. That's the QTS data center that we're using in Chicago for the CTO Advisor data center. So there was a delay at that piece where there was physical wiring, but because MegaPort's a partner, we don't have to wait for physical wiring to go into the Oracle side. And I think that's a really cool capability that we get.
Yeah, as we dig through it, there's a couple of other really cool capabilities from both an engineering and a financial side that we'll dig into it and we'll talk about.
What's our process then?
All right, so first and foremost, you start in the Oracle Cloud environment. This is the landing page after you've logged in, and you have to go to Fast Connect. So as if you've watched the other videos, you know we love hamburgers. You click on the hamburger menu, the top left, and you go under Core Infrastructure to Networking. And under Networking, you choose Fast Connect. We could also have searched for the Fast Connect, but we went through the menu this time. I like to keep a little variety in my life. So it's basically a click. You need to click on the Create a Fast Connect button. As you can see, there's only two options in the breadcrumb trail telling us what we need to do.
And so the first, using a partner, which is what MegaPort is. The Fast Connect Direct would be if we were having a 10 gig fiber laid of our own into the Oracle point of presence.
Correct. Yeah, so we're using MegaPort. We let them do the hard work. So we just choose the partner and start typing. MegaPort shows up. And then we go next, our name. So to name this, I'm going to choose CTO A for CTO Advisor Fast Connect. And it's going to be a private circuit, which means it'll let us attach into our private networks.
So the public circuit allows us to use our own dedicated bandwidth to things that are available on public IP addresses only, whereas the private is to get into our VCN networking, our virtual cloud networking.
Yep. We need to create a dynamic routing gateway in this compartment. We have one from a previous build out, but let's go ahead and create a new one, shall we? We've gone through this. We're going to have to cancel. In the networking tab, where you're still here on Fast Connect, dynamic routing gateway is an option. When you click on the dynamic routing gateway, you have to pay no attention to the gateway behind the curtain here. You want to create
from our dry run wasn't quite as clean as we might have hoped.
Yeah. So we're going to create a new dynamic routing gateway. What this is just an endpoint between your on-premises network and Oracle. So it's similar to the internet gateway, which we've configured when we created a subnet, except it's private. So we're going to call it CTO A Dynamic Routing Gateway, DRG. We could tag if we want there's tagging throughout. If you're doing this in production, it says we already have a limit to our dynamic routing gateways. So I'd say we just go ahead and keep using the one that's there. It's not being terminated. Otherwise,
let's take a quick look at the settings that are available on this dynamic routing gateway.
Sure. So you've created one. Because this also could be used to create a VPN connection if you weren't using Fast Connect. You can set up IPsec connections, and you can relate them to this. It's is currently attached to the original cloud network that we'd created that's still sitting there. So we'll see if it can connect to a second one. Virtual circuits would be the Fast Connect. So when we get the Fast Connect going, it would show up in this virtual circuit. You could see the connection provider and everything from here. And remote peering.
This dynamic routing gateway is for all of the private side network connections. So the internet gateway is for all of the public IP address side. The dynamic routing gateway is for all of the private side, and various, we can see VPN or peering to other virtual cloud networks as well.
Correct. So we need to have that for the Fast Connect. So let's go and try the Fast Connect again. So we're going to try to use that one. We'll see what happens here. So we'll go into MegaPort.
This is the Fast Connect, not the DRG.
Oh, thank you. We're going to choose that DRG. We have a choice between 1 gig provisioned or 10 gig provisioned. We're going to go ahead and choose 10 gig. So we can actually, we'll make it, Oracle is expecting fast. And a very interesting part of using MegaPort is that you can throttle it on the MegaPort side, and it will adjust how much goes into Oracle, and it changes your bill on the fly. So you pay for what you're configured to use at the time. So if you need to spin it up to do a big migration and then turn it back down from your 2 gig to 100 meg, you can do that. So whenever you're creating this, you're going to create a BGP IP address on the customer side and on the Oracle side. The customer, you would want to talk to your networking team to have them help you configure BGP and tell you the address and the subnet mask. For Oracle, it can be anything. Whatever you put here just becomes the IP address. The IP topology was given to me from our architects and our networking team. The Oracle side is 172. The customer side is the customer BGP ASN. So it's the autonomous system number.
Autonomous system number, yeah.
So that's 2000. That was provided to us from the networking team. We have to create it first on this side because you need to be able to give the Oracle Cloud identifier to MegaPort. So now we go to MegaPort. There's not a whole lot with the permissions level that I've been given into this. There's not a whole lot that you can do or mess up. So here's the 10 gig port that's connected and ready to go in Chicago. And then here are the partners. So we're going to click on Oracle because that's where it's going. And it's asking for that circuit ID that we copied and pasted. And we get a choice of the primary and secondary. Oracle's best practices whenever you're doing this is to create a link. You have 2 different links created. So in this instance, we're only going to create one leg into the data center. So we're going to choose the primary. But if we were setting up a second Fast Connect, we could come in and choose the secondary here. That's the port configuration. Now we need to set some details. I'm going to call it Chicago to Oracle. We don't have an invoice reference. And here's where we can rate limit. So as you can see, there's a big price difference. I think Keith has actually made some material in a video about the price difference. So if you go up and we say we want to use the entire pipe, it's going to cost $2,500 a month, which is quite a bit. But maybe it's not.
Quite a lot of bandwidth, though.
It's a lot of bandwidth. If you have applications that need it, then that's probably pretty reasonable if you think about it.
But you want to be sure that you're getting $2,500 a month of value out of that bandwidth if you're going to spend $2,500 a month on it. It's nice that you can dial it up and down.
Yeah, and it reacts. MegaPort and Oracle have that ability to where it just reacts and you can change it. It's not a monthly commitment. If you need to burst up or down, you can. And that's kind of unique. Not all cloud providers will allow you to do that. So we're going to add the virtual connection. And over here it says, do you want to order it? We're going to order.
Going and committing to spending a whole $124 for that bandwidth.
Yep.
Into Oracle. Or
So
at least $124 on the MegaPort side.
Yep.
That was one of the unique things about the Oracle network charging. There's no data egress charging on Oracle the way there is on other clouds. So all of the clouds let you move data in for free. Oracle doesn't charge you to take data out, which is unusual. Yeah,
that is very unusual because the bandwidth in seems to be plentiful, but bandwidth out seems to cost quite a bit.
Yeah, and I think that reflects the philosophy of the Oracle Cloud Infrastructure to be more like an enterprise data center that has cloud features than just being a cloud provider. Mm-hmm. I've been to a few briefings from the Oracle Cloud Infrastructure team over the last couple of years, and one of the themes was about being more like what enterprises are used to as their objective in this public cloud, and things like not overcommitting on network bandwidth is something that you expect in an enterprise environment that you don't necessarily get in public cloud. So that comes along with the same philosophy, and that may drive organizations to view the Oracle Cloud as potentially preferable, because there's a whole lot of operational things and ways of working that you don't have to change to use the Oracle Cloud, and that seems quite attractive to me. Yeah, I'm definitely a infrastructure enterprise sort of guy, so it's when we get into the VMware, you'll really see it, but it's kind of familiar territory of we have a lot of access. We can just use it like a data center and not have to worry. So that's configuring. The BGP status is down. This can take up to 5 minutes. BGP negotiation can take some time, but even so, we're getting pretty fast progress on this. Let's have Jeffrey do the time travel magic to the point where either this is successful and has completed, or we need to troubleshoot some more. So now a little bit of time has passed, and we have a provisioned Fast Connect link. Currently BGP is down. We haven't gone and looked at the troubleshooting for that, but we also haven't provided a connection from that virtual routing gateway, the dynamic routing gateway, back to anything. So I thought, Tom, we might do that before we take more of a look at BGP, because of course BGP is about exchanging routes, and currently there are no routes to exchange. Yep, that's certainly making sure that it's configured properly is probably the first step. So I clicked on the link. I have it in a little fast, so I'll go back. But there's the dynamic routing gateway this Fast Connect's attached to. There's a link here. So I'm going to click on it. We're going to go into the dynamic routing gateway resources. So over here on the left, you can choose virtual cloud networks. So as you see, there are no attached virtual cloud networks. So we're going to choose one. I'll choose the one that we created this series. And it's going to go through. It's going to take a little bit of time to attach. Yeah. And so this is giving us a router that sits between this vCloud network and, in our case, the Fast Connect. But it looks like we could attach multiple virtual cloud networks in here and route between multiple VCNs. And maybe we have different cloud networks for each of our applications or our business units. Right. And have this dynamic routing gateway connect multiple together. It says we're attached, so we're going to go to the circuit. So BGP can take a little bit to handshake to exchange routes. Now we have some. So we've got a link for troubleshooting tips. If we want to look at that and see what Oracle says. In the documentation, it's general issues. Virtual Connect is up. BGP session is down. We've configured our router in the data center with the connection information. customer premises and CPU
Oh, yeah.
stuff is usually about a VPN.
Correct.
But in this case, we've got MegaPort manages everything, so the physical layer is definitely correctly configured.
Right. And we've got the BGP address for each side. So we know that we've gotten that configured. The ASN, so the autonomous system number is right. We're not using MD5 authentication.
Yeah, we're just doing a very simple joining two together, so there won't be a lot of prefixes involved.
So we've got it connected into here. We'll look and see what associate route table does. We're not setting up transit routing, so we don't need to do that. So it should just be ready. Let's go and look at our route tables, shall we? Go in, we're going to look at our default route table, which is, as we may remember, it's associated with the public subnet, which is our jump box. So right now we have a rule to the internet gateway. Let's go ahead and add a route back to the DRG. We're going to do the on-premises network is 10.0.0.0. And we're going to send the traffic that goes back to that /19 because we've got a /19 block on premises. So we're going to choose that as the destination. Let's connect to Chicago. All right.
We could have chosen to do this routing rule to a much broader range because we're using a /8 for the entire range for the CTO Advisor internal network. Mm-hmm. But you've gone for just connecting back to Chicago in this case.
Right, yeah. So we're just doing direct connect between those two sites. If we were choosing to connect it and we're wanting to send everything through this that was going out to the broader 10 subnet, 10.0.0.0, we could broaden that out. We can go, even if we wanted to go to a /9, we could do that. Since we're doing 10.255.0.0 in our VCN, we can't do the full /8, or else we would confuse things. So, let's go ahead and broaden this out. This shows that you can just go in and edit to think /9. So as you may remember, I have a handy IP calculator. I'd like to go and check and make sure that I'm not going to cause any trouble. So that's going through 10.127. So that'll work to get us back into the regular network without doing any collisions.
So even if we had multiple data centers on our private side network already and they occupied anything up to the 10.128 or anything below 10.128, that would be covered by this route.
Yep. So that's probably going to be a wise decision in the long run.
Simple route tables.
So we have the route, some routes associated with the DRG, which is associated with the network. Let's go check on our fast connect. BGP state is still down.
I think this is the point at which we need to escalate to the on-premises networking team.
Yes.
And to coordinate troubleshooting between the on-premises switch and that's the layer 3 switch that's doing this BGP for us. So let's stop the recording at this point and get the on-premises networks team involved. And then we'll come back and talk about what's required in order to resolve this.
We now have a BGP connection status of up. So when we went through troubleshooting, we accessed the resources at our hand, called our network engineer to check the router to make sure everything was looking good on that end, that we hadn't messed up a IP address or an ASN. So whenever he was doing troubleshooting, he was able to log in, but he couldn't ping our dynamic routing gateway. So what we did is we looked in the MegaPort portal, and there was a setting that I ran through and didn't really consider, and it was this preferred AN VLAN. So the VLAN on the customer side in our data center is 2000. So I didn't have that set, and it defaulted to like a 949 or some. It had some default VLAN, and so that was keeping us from being able to negotiate the routes. As soon as we change that, it takes about 2 minutes, And then we were able to see the advertised routes and ping, and everything's fine. And so now on Fast Connect, we have connectivity back to the network.
So if we'd remembered that we had to make that configuration setting when we did this the first time, then we would have simply used the same VLAN ID on that MegaPort connection as was on the switch on-premises in Chicago.
Yes.
All right, so now we have a connection between our Chicago data center and our Oracle-based data center. That's fairly cool.
Yeah, so now we can talk back and forth. And as a demo of that, if you want to see, so right now I am in Chicago 10.0 subnet. If we open up RDP, if you remember, our jump host has 10.255.4.2 as its IP address.
So we previously connected to its public address, but this is its private address.
Right. Yeah. So publicly, its IP, it had a this address 132.145. So this is the private address that in the video we pulled up looking at the network configuration. And so if we hit that, we have OPC. We could type in the password and be logged on to the private address on the jump host. Everything would be hunky-dory.
So at this point, we no longer need to have that firewall hole open to allow from the internet into the jump host. We can directly access the jump host from on-premises.
Correct. And so would you like to go back and change that, or do we want to see anything else with the Fast Connect?
So what else might we need to set up to allow access from on-premises into the Fast Connect, into the cloud network? So we've set up the route table, but we've still just got the security settings that we previously had. The firewall on that subnet remains set as we had before.
Right.
We're getting access through RDP, but from that rule that allows access from anywhere.
Right.
So
yeah.
Maybe we should restrict that access and then maybe look at thinking about what else we might need to change.
Right. So yeah, we need to patch that hole really fast, but then we also can start looking toward the future with our VMware infrastructure and decide what needs to be able to talk back and go ahead and configure the route tables and the security lists and all the other information needed to be able to communicate back once the vCenter environment is up and running.
Well, let's do the change for the jump host, and we can call it a day for connecting the on-premises network to the Oracle Cloud Network.
So once again, we're going to go to our hamburger, networking, virtual cloud networks. It's getting some orientation around of what's inside virtual cloud networks versus what's outside of it. It starts to make sense. You just have to work around. So if you're wanting route tables, those are a object that are dedicated to a VCN, but a Fast Connect or a DRG are more global. So you could use them outside of it, so they're not exactly accessible through the resources of the VCN.
The vCloud network you can think of as being a data center dedicated typically to a particular application or to a collection of resource.
Yes.
And we can glue multiple of them together. And that's why we've got the DRG and the Fast Connect outside of the vCloud network, because they're shared and they're what joins together multiple of these application networks.
We need to make sure for the jump host to be secured. First thing we want to do is go into our route table and just confirm it's using the default route table. Yep, DRG's there. We knew that because we were already able to reach it on its private IP, but better to be safe than troubleshooting. And then security list is where we have that giant hole. So here, the default security list for the VCN. You see here we have RDP from the internet. So there's a couple ways we can do it. We can change it. We can edit the source, or we can remove it, recreate it.
I'd edit the source and just change the source to being our 10.0 network.
Mm-hmm. That's the network that we were using for everything else.
Yeah.
We'll call that RDP from Chicago, no longer.
You know, I think we should have a /8 on that, because we might want to allow RDP from inside the VCN as well, because that's /8, not /0.
Oh yeah, you're right. Sorry. Yeah,
so
you're right.
Because that /9 wouldn't allow RDP from within vCloud network to within vCloud network.
Yeah, you're right, because I thought this rule was for that. Yeah, the rules are restrictive on the default subnets. That's good. It protects you from yourself. Yeah,
although of course we're still also allowing SSH from the internet, so we should probably change that SSH, the top rule as well, to have a source of 10/8. So the only thing at the moment we're generically allowing is that ICMP traffic from the internet.
Right. I guess the connectivity test, you would leave that. But
I think you'd follow your security policy.
So we should now be able to RDP to the public or to the private, but not to
private
the public.
Only. Yeah.
So we just go ahead and test that. Let's go ahead and try to hit its public IP.
Mm-hmm. Now that public IP address is still on the instance.
Yes, it is. We haven't gone and cleaned that up yet.
Changed that.
But we just restricted the security. And look, you can get it to the private, but you can't to the public, which is the method that we prefer.
You know, before I get blinded by the sun coming up here at, what time is it here? 8:13 in the morning. Let's close out this video. And that's given us the connection between our on-premises data center and the OCI data center. That provisioning was made quick and simple because we were using MegaPort. I think that was a pretty awesome service. And we were able to make changes mostly without having to escalate to our networks team, although they did need to advise us about that VLAN. And yeah, connectivity was quick and easy to set up. We got good control in here too.